seconds at the beginning. 10 seconds.
You can nail
In
it.
and out. I can nail it. I can absolutely nail it.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I think it should be longer. It should be at least 20 minutes. Like we should do as much about that as we did about the Met Gala in general, because it's good.
Wait a minute. Here's the great. Nobody knows what that is.
I
That's
know.
what's so great
I
about it.
know.
Nobody knows what that. I thought the Met Gala was when they brought back the 69 Mets and the 86 Mets to celebrate fucking baseball. I don't know.
They had the Jimmy Kimmel produced documentary about the '86 Mets on ESPN last night. The big two-parter.
I guess if I missed it, that'll never run again, will it?
It's over. How are you ever going to see
Yeah,
it?
they never
It's not
run.
gonna happen.
They never run anything after
Pony
the
up
first
your
on.
$5 and go to ESPN Plus. That's the only chance you got right now. I mean, good
Oh,
luck. All right, sharing is caring. Let's go. This is an interesting facet that he covered that nobody else has ever said. Did you know that the '86 Mets did a lot of drugs?
No, come on.
I mean, I don't know why.
Show me the proof.
I don't think there's any citation of this.
No, there's no widespread evidence of that.
Unfortunately, when I see Lenny Dykstra, I do think that's of another failure of our friend Jim Cramer, who very heartily co-signed Lenny Dykstra's ability to pick the market. I hate to say it. He was a huge believer in Len Dykstra.
For about a minute.
It was a bit more than a minute. It's been recorded also on an HBO Real Sports of him. This guy knows the market. This guy knows what he's doing. I'm telling you, he does.
He says that about a dog. He named his dog NVIDIA.
Unfortunately, again, it's been preserved on tape forever. His dog's name is NVIDIA.
He does. Wait, and the first one died, and so he named the second one NVIDIA 2.
What, to remind himself of what a dick or how stupid he'd been? I'm telling you, this Kenneth Lay knows what he's doing. It's magic.
All right, we're in business here. We can roll.
I'm ready.
Hello, and welcome along to the Brad and Britt cast. We're glad you're with us here. Thank you very much. Can I tell you something that I've done twice in the last week that's just so stupid? I mean, it's just so blindingly stupid. And what's even worse, I didn't learn from the time I did it the first time to the time I did it again. This is so stupid. I'm embarrassed to tell my wife because she'll just add that to the list and then bring it back up at me. So here it is. Ready? Here we go. And I know if you're listening on a podcast and you can't see me, I'm wearing totally wireless little headphones. They have the little black stems coming down them.
Mm-hmm.
And last week, I'm cutting my hedges around the house. In fact, right outside the window where I'm at. They're really high. I have to get on a ladder. It's kind of been, and the next thing I know, I turn my head and the right one falls out, gets caught in the brush and falls out. But it doesn't just fall on the ground because it falls in a pile of leaves and all kinds. In other words, the most camouflage bit of real estate on earth that you can't find anything in.
Right.
So it only took me a half hour. I finally found it. Okay. You would think that someone, when that happened, would go, hey, maybe next time I'm doing yard work or something, I'd be a little bit more careful.
Sure.
You would be wrong. Because this morning, there I was, and I wasn't really doing anything important. I was just cleaning up around the outside of the house. I had to walk through this one area where there's a tree, and sure enough, bam, the same one falls out again. But this time, in even a more camouflaged, impossible to find area. It's 7 a.m. It's still dark. I go back in the house. I got a flashlight now, and I'm crawling around in dirty leaves and now dead black-eyed Susan. Just total shit. And I can't find the damn thing. And I thought, all right, be cool. Don't panic. don't.
Yeah.
Man, these are like, they're not that, they're like $80.
Still.
I thought, you know what? My first thought is, you know what? I can live with one. Airplanes can fly with one engine. I can live with one of these. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. Let's wait until it gets light out, in another half hour or so, and it's really bright, and I'll be able to find it. And I did find it. And here's the question. You answer this. Has Brad learned his lesson?
No, he has not.
Happen again?
I'm going to say no, that you've not learned your lesson in the least, and there is not a lesson learned. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, there is just nothing like a big old bowl of stupid for breakfast, huh? There's just nothing like a big old bowl of dumb.
The best part of waking up is stupid in your cup, right there.
Just being stupid. All right, I got an idea here. Why don't we move from west to east? Just like the sun comes up in the west every morning.
Very interesting.
Right, that's what I hear. So the California recall election, that was a nail biter. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I've had the coffee going. I was ready to go all night.
But you never know until you know. You just never know.
Right. But wait, here's the miracle of that process out there. They had the votes counted and a decision made by 8:40 out there, 40 minutes after the polls closed. Now you can say, well, that's because it was a big margin. No, they had like 70% of the votes counted by that time, and that was enough to make a call. And that's, of course, because California is one of those states where they count the mail-in ballots as they come in, and they have the total, and they keep it secret. And then right when the polls close, wham, they start to release them, which, of course, is a very, very intelligent thing to do. There are several other states that do it. And then there are ones like North fucking Carolina, okay, where we can't start counting our votes until after the polls close.
By law. Also, that happened in Pennsylvania. Right. That's part of the reason that the total, they by law, we're not allowed to start counting those ballots until election day. That's exactly what happened. Right. And that's why Baby Huey's been throwing a fit for, 6 months or 8 months or whatever.
Right. But you can't, for the life of yourself and anybody you've ever talked to or seen in your, give a legitimate reason why you would do that. It makes no sense, especially in a world where we want instant everything. We want instant results. We want to know right now. We don't want to have to wait. The longer you have to wait, the more shit gets thrown into the process, as we just saw in 2020. And so California, congratulations to them for having a system in place where they get those votes counted, because just think, that state is so humongous, and there's a million places. If they didn't start counting the votes until 11 o'clock last night, our time, it would have been terrible. They might have gotten it done by early this morning or something, but it would have made no sense. So good for them.
Well, it has to be. It has to be something. A 2-1 margin. As you said, it was completely decisive. Democrats did come out in a very off season election. Anything could happen between now and the midterms in 2020, but it's a good omen. It's got to be a good omen for Democrats, right?
Oh yeah. How about it's not a bad omen? And I get to eat a cookie when I get off, because I finally heard the first little rumblings by a KNBC reporter from the NBC station in Los Angeles, who covers state politics out there, say this isn't just a win for Gavin Newsom, but if he gets reelected next year, because there's a regular election next year, if he gets reelected again, you can expect him to go on to Google Flights and start making reservations to fly to, say, New Hampshire, just to be neighborly. Okay, so yes, he becomes a reemergent, powerful Democratic figure if and when he gets reelected. And if he's lucky enough to run against Larry Elder one-on-one, right, and then kicks his ass again, which he would, there is no doubt about that, then it will happen. The Republicans, and you could make this argument, some people are making it, I'll make it now. I don't think Trumpism is completely dead, but it's in intensive care. And we did find a little intensive care political closet to put it on life support right now. The entire Republican Trumpism idea that if you run close enough to Trump and embrace him, you can gain a following that's good enough to win in a general election. And I know this wasn't a general election,
No,
but it just doesn't fly in states except for the reddest of the red states. And you know what I think? I think if I was Ted Budd, who is the endorsed Donald Trump Senate candidate for the Republican nomination in this state, you know what I'd be doing? I'd be heading down to Costco and buying a whole bunch of toilet paper. You can get 32 rolls for about $17 because he's going to need it. Because the embrace of Donald Trump in anything but the reddest of the red states, and we're not one of the reddest of the red states. We're fairly purple for these purposes. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Not
every
here.
time. No, every time I think that though, every time I start thinking North Carolina takes a step forward, they always take about 7 steps back. So I mean, I think you're right. I think what you're saying is correct, but North Carolina has broken my heart so many times in the past. I can certainly think, like, I certainly thought when Harvey Gantt was running against Jesse Helms, I thought this will be the time we can do.
Oh, I know, but you know, just try not to be burdened down with
history,
other situations, because as we know in so many different instances, because of Trump and Trumpism, it is different this time. It really is.
But regardless,
because think about it. When they kicked out Gray Davis, who was the other Democratic governor who was subject to being recalled, the Republicans back then, at least, were still an organized enough legitimate party that they coalesced around one guy, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Schwarzenegger, you know, became the replacement, and then he won election, right? Mm-hmm. Schwarzenegger got. So contrast that now. What do they have? 46? Is that the same as an NFL roster? Like the first four? Is that about right? Is that close?
It's close. It's in the neighborhood. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. It's certainly more than Major League Baseball. Does Major League Baseball only have like 25 or
and then they expand it. It's like they go to 30 for the playoffs and stuff like that. So yeah.
So more than the Dodgers, more than the Giants, more than the Padres.
But regardless of whether Gavin Newsom decides to run for president or not, it's still an impressive victory in and of itself. I think he carried Orange County, which is always a big deal because it's always been a big conservative stronghold in Orange County. It was as you pointed out yesterday, it needs to be a decisive. It was an ass kicking. It's 2-1, and it just shows that I don't know exactly what it shows. I hope it shows that Donald Trump's ability to enthrall people and his handle on the electorate is over. Well, I hope that's one thing that it shows.
I think very little of Larry Elder. I really do, for about 100 reasons. But at one moment last night or early this morning, our time, I guess, he, by Trump's definition, offended Donald Trump, insulted him, broke with him by conceding the election. Okay. And remember the bar, how low it is, that when you get your butt kicked by a 2-1 margin overall to concede defeat, in the world of Donald Trump, you're a loser, right? You know, where are the lawsuits today? Wasn't this election fixed? Right. I saw it on the website a couple days ago. What is it? How? Come on, bring the lawsuits.
The Trump statement. Did you see the Trump statement about it and the obvious fraud that's taken place in order to give Gavin Newsom a victory? You saw somehow, and this will shock America, Donald Trump made it about him in about 2 sentences. That was the most surprising thing about the statement that was released, is that he was screwed twice in California. Donald Trump was in 2016 and 2020. He clearly won the state. But because of fraudulence, he was not allowed to win. And the same sort of thing has bitten Larry. Oh, what's his name again? And that's essentially the Donald Trump statement.
Right. All right. Now I want to throw in here, and this is too stupid to talk about, and I'm going to throw it into this little California segment that we're almost done with, which is what I said we would talk about yesterday that we never got around to because it was too stupid to talk about then. It's still too stupid, but it's worth mentioning. The idiotic dress that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wore to this Met Gallery thing, which is an event that nobody knows what it is. I just hear it. It just ends up on Entertainment Tonight, and here's the Met Gallery. Here are people dressed up like fucking crazy ass people, and they're raising money. It's 35. I still don't know what that is. I thought the Met Gallery was when they got together the 69 and the 86 world champion Mets teams for some kind of confab at the Javits, but I'm wrong. I know that.
Absolutely wrong.
Right. But here's the point. AOC should now meet in Chicago with Gavin Newsom, and they should eat at the most expensive restaurant in Chicago to celebrate their liberal greatness and give more fodder to Fox News and the right wingers to call them hypocrites for being so fucking tone deaf in doing that. That's all I have to say about her. She's very smart. She's a great questioner.
I agree.
She comes prepared to all the hearings. But Jesus Christ Almighty, you don't mimic Melania Trump, who wore that stupid thing. I don't care.
Do you? Why do you care? Whatever.
This isn't about should we tax the rich more? Of course we should tax the rich more. That's not the point. That's not the discussion here. It's not about whether you're for higher taxes on rich people or not. It's doing it like that, where you're trying. You think you're converting anybody? You think it's a bad idea. It's stupid. And quit giving them shit to pour on top of you. Quit giving Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson talking points to talk about that forever and to show a picture of you forever as being out of touch when you claim to be for the poor people. Look at you. Don't do it. It's stupid. And Gavin Newsom, of all people, he knows better now. I hope he learned his lesson, because when you strip away everything, the physical reason he was subject to being recalled were all the pictures of him
at the French Laundry
at that restaurant.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
It's
nuts.
All of that shit cost the
happened.
state $200 million. That was the $200 million dinner. That's essentially what it was.
And you know what? That didn't even count the tip.
Not even with the tip.
A good tip would have been what, 30 million on top of that?
Yeah,
right.
sure. Yeah. I mean, if you want to do 30 million's generous.
So that's all.
I think
that's
the problem.
all.
I think
that's
the
all I
problem.
got to say about her.
I think the problem with AOC, to extend the discussion for 5 more seconds, that you talk about, is she's very bright. I think, and she says a lot of the right things, and she does. Sometimes she has some extreme positions, but a lot of times she does not. I think she has trouble, and I'm not excusing the behavior. Before I say this, I'm not excusing, and I'm not saying it's helpful. I'm just saying she has trouble dealing with the attention that she gets, and sometimes she wants to play up on that, and she doesn't really understand how it's going to fuck things up. All the media attention, all the spotlight and stuff like that, and then on very rare occasions she does things like she did at the Met Gala. I think that's the problem. You get a little bit of a taste. I'll give you an example. When Cal Cunningham here in North Carolina was running for the Senate, and he got just a smidge of national attention, he didn't know what to do with it. He immediately unzipped and he fucked everything up because he didn't know. He never had that sort of attention. Women flinging themselves into his DMs and shit. Like, well, sure, I can fuck her. So you have to have some sort of circumspection in order to deal with all of the attention you're going to get and know in a way how that's going to affect things.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I guess we can talk about this now. Britt, you and I have had more women throw themselves at us over the years.
Holy shit. I mean, it's so obvious.
We always manage to walk away.
Yeah, not always.
Or
I gotta be
do
honest.
the right thing.
Yeah.
But that's not an accident when you do what she did. Okay?
No, I agree. I agree.
This is the old, why wasn't there someone that said to her, blank, blank, and the answer is there never is, and there never will be. That's all I got to say.
It's not an accident, because it takes months and months and months and months and months to design that dress and get the message, and thousands of dollars and all that other shit. A follow up to something that we had on yesterday's Brad and Britt cast, when the excerpt from the Bob Woodward book showed that General Milley called up China to say, look, we're not going to bomb you. We're not going to attack you. Donald Trump is just being an asshole following January the 6th. Everybody just stand down. Trump issued a statement, of course, bitching, calling General Milley, I believe a dumbass, quote unquote, Brad, was what he called General Milley. And he says that General Milley should be arrested for treason. Brad, how quickly do you think General Milley is going to be arrested for treason? Should it happen this afternoon or certainly by Friday, correct?
All right. Well, but before we completely fall into the trap of talking about this story only from the vantage point of how Donald Trump reacted to it, okay, can we at least talk about what really happened and what's really in the book and the facts? And whether this is outside the bounds of legality or propriety or decency, and whether General Milley, appointed to be the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff by Donald Trump, okay, so this was his guy. It wasn't somebody that dropped in from heaven, so he knew him well, and they obviously worked together at some level because, of course, General Milley escorted him into Lafayette Square so he could hold up a Bible. And General Milley doesn't want that to be the first entry in his Wikipedia page. So he spoke to Bob Woodward and Robert Costa and made sure that this was part of the story, which I'm glad that he did. I'm glad. I'll tell you what I did. If I can just read myself here. Last night at midnight, wow. This is what I wrote. Let's see if it stands the test of time here. Only about 12 hours or so later. All right, here it is. If General Milley's actions, chronicled in the new Bob Woodward, Robert Costa book, while technically wrong and in violation of the chain of command, resulted in his career coming to an end, he should suffer not a moment of doubt or shame. It will have been a heroic defense of the democratic process, the sanctity of the vote of the United States, along with a peaceful transition as was possible under the stress and violence perpetrated by Trump in trying to reverse the results of that vote. To have to put up with, and this is just one example, you named another one, Trump. So I said last night, because we hadn't heard from Trump yet, to have put up with a phony, sanctimonious weasel like Marco Rubio, who also is calling for the resignation of General Milley. This is the same Marco Rubio who voted twice during the impeachment trials to acquit Trump, hectoring and lecturing us now, still defending Trump, of course, in this case, right? Alleging that General Milley was wrong in his assessment of Trump's mental state. Guess what? That's what he's doing. If you're saying that Milley is the problem, not Trump, it's sickening. If Rubio and the other Republican cult enabler cowards had convicted Trump and removed him, none of this would have been necessary. But all of us, you, Britt, me, zillions of other people, folks in the government, folks all over the media, from left to right to up to down, were speculating that Trump was willing to do anything to hang on to his office, even before the election that he lost. And then afterwards, we were all just, again, buying up the toilet paper, hoping to get from November 3rd to January 20th without the world coming to an end. Because the wag the dog scenario, it was there. Donald Trump, he'd be the guy that would do it, right? Start a war. I got to stay in office. Can't change horses in midstream, right? Suspend the contract. Right? We all thought that could happen. And to me, personally, I am glad that we had a General Milley who was also thinking that. But he could act on it. He could act on it. And he did. He acted on what I think were reasonable suspicions. And because 50 Republican senators minus one, Romney, twice had a chance to eliminate this from ever being a part of the conversation by kicking Trump out of office and convicting him, they got nothing to say. And what's the one phrase that has come up over and over again? It came up a few weeks ago after what happened in Afghanistan. It certainly came up after September 11, 2001. A failure of the imagination. We couldn't even imagine this would happen, right? And this is what General Milley was one step ahead of on. He did imagine that it could happen. And to go after him now in this way, I think is absolutely wrong. He didn't do anything illegal. He didn't make any promises that we would never bomb them and we would tip them off if we were going to. We would send them a candygram and announce we're bombing in 5 minutes.
Candygram.
That did not happen. Right. So the Republicans, this is perfect for many of them, although it looks like there is no unanimity on the Republican side on this either. I believe Tom Cotton, senator from Alabama? Arkansas. This starts with an A. I can't tell the difference.
It's a redneck state with a low vaccination rate. You're in that ballpark.
Exactly. He has come out in full support of General Milley. Okay, and he's a veteran too. So he's got some cred on this. So I don't think they're going to get anywhere with this. If we're glad, aren't you glad he did it? And by the way, remember, this wasn't just him doing it by himself. The reporting is there. And guess where the reporting is today? It's coming out of Fox from that Jennifer Griffin, who's a good reporter. Mm-hmm. And she's got the story that it wasn't just General Milley driving over to Virginia to a phone booth and making a call to General Lee. Is that how
it happened? Lee? He went to a gas station. He got some quarters, and he went into a phone booth. Is that how that's how he contacted China?
No. He did it in complete concert with the other members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the staff. Yeah. Everybody knew what he was doing, and they all signed on to it. So,
but I like
the idea. Crazy. He wasn't nuts.
I like the idea of him driving a couple hours out of DC, going to some dusty bait shop somewhere in bumfuck Virginia, grabbing a phone, the last phone booth in America, feeding it some quarters, and getting in touch with China.
So I think my first instinct last night, I think it's right. I think that General Milley should be thanked, and I think he's doing this in the long tradition of, when you have a president who is disabled at some level, but the legal process hasn't taken forth or he hasn't been kicked out of office yet, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. This is just that case. It's just like when Nixon in 1974, as impeachment was about to happen to him, and Watergate was about to talk. He didn't know what to do, and I believe the defense secretary then, James Schlesinger, did the same thing, the same kind of thing. It's been done before. And I haven't looked at the history on this for a long time, but I know Woodrow Wilson was severely disabled. I think he had a stroke. I don't think they told the public for a year or something.
His wife ran the country for like a year.
Right. It was Weekend at Woodrow's in the White House.
They'd prop him up.
Barely
hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Nothing wrong.
Yeah. So to see Colonel Vindman, the great Alexander Vindman, go on CNN on Tuesday night and announce that this is treason. He should be court-martialed. He'd vote for all this. The guy who followed the rules when it came to ratting out Trump and Rudy Giuliani and the rest of them for trying to pressure Ukraine. And that great testimony. We love Alexander Vindman. He's a guy that goes all by the book, and he says he did what he did correctly because he went through all the channels, right? And it didn't work. So he ended up getting called and telling his story to the public.
Right.
Yet General Milley, he didn't do the right thing, which, by the way, in this case, according to Vindman, if I can figure this out, what he means is he should have gone to Donald Trump and asked Donald Trump if he could override Donald Trump on this. And Donald Trump would have who's his superior? Who is his superior here?
Right.
The answer is, I guess it's only Trump. So I think Vindman he's just off. And by the way, Vindman, how well were you paid back for going by the system? The answer is Trump didn't get convicted, and your career got fucked over. So I feel bad for you, but I think you're wrong about this with General Milley.
Oh, that's that is kind of upsetting that Vindman would have that particular take, I think. And remember, there are legitimate legal stopgaps put in place for just not launching a nuclear weapon. They had the meeting at the Pentagon. Milley brought everybody together, and I want to review the protocols for launching a nuclear weapon. You have to have my input. Certainly, the guy who's above me has to give it the thumbs up, but that's not the only approval that you need in order to launch a nuclear weapon. I have to be part of the decision.
Right. Think about how smart, how obvious that is, but needed to be restated at that moment. Because if there was ever a guy who was going to say, I don't care what Milley said, just do it. They sent us the China virus. We're going to send them a 20 kiloton nuclear bomb on Wuhan. We'll make sure there's never another virus that comes out of Wuhan. We're going to turn it into dust. He'd be that guy.
Of course.
He was that guy.
It's exactly right. Well, it brings to mind Dr. Strangelove, doesn't it? It just did not, the Kubrick was so far ahead of his time. I mean, and they did. Can you imagine having a meeting at the Pentagon? Everybody grab a croissant, get your coffee. Now, I just want to go over the whole thing about launching a nuclear bomb. All right, this is how it's going to go. Just so you guys know, just so we're clear, because we haven't gone over this in a while. It's the same thing. This guy has to say yes, but also I have to say yes. This guy and also me. All right, just remember that. All right, everybody, have a great day. It's pizza day down in the cafeteria.
I do have one solution that they could have gone to, but this probably wouldn't have flown. They could have given Trump a fake nuclear football. You know, when you were a kid, we all had this when we were kids. That little plastic dashboard with the steering wheel on it, so you thought you were driving. Okay. So, they should have given Trump so he could press a button and think he just launched something.
You could have. There's
against China, and then a video could come up that showed what happens. But the other thing that you mentioned, I'm glad you used the word because I'd forgotten about it. Here's one of the hysterical characterizations of what went on now. Britt, that was a military coup. That was a military coup. Now, who's saying this? You got to remember who's saying this.
The guy who was trying to engineer a military coup.
Well, no.
Donald Trump.
It wasn't a military. A military coup is where a general has the leader of the country murdered, right, or exiled, and then
it's the Al Haig thing. The Al Haig thing,
right? But that wasn't a military coup either. Okay?
No, it was not. But he tried. He gave it a shot.
Right. So for this purpose, of course, it wasn't a military coup, but a real coup was attempted on January 6th. A true attempt to overturn the peaceful transfer of power from one president to the next president via the constitutional process that was set out well over 200 years ago and has been followed faithfully every time. And so, as always, in what this keeps happening over and over again, like, this is the 100-year flood. This is the 1,000-year flood. When was the last one? 2 weeks ago, right? You keep topping this, okay?
Well, I said this last time, was there were all these stories about people that would go, oh my God, he just said this thing and it's like really disturbing. And you'd call over to the White House or you'd call the Pentagon and Mark Meadows or somebody would go, it's okay. We've got it under control. We're not going to allow him to level Los Angeles. We're not going to allow him to level San Francisco. Just it's fine. But I like the fake football thing. My great nephew had one of those things when he was a little, like 1 or 2, where you push the buttons and the sounds get made up and stuff on the little board. And you could have given him one of those things in a briefcase. He wouldn't have known the difference.
Right. He would not have known. And let me just finish my thought on the whole idea of a coup. Remember, the entire Republican Party, with very few exceptions, Liz Cheney, Adam Kissinger, they have signed off on not only sanctioning what happened on January 6th, but continuing to now try to pretend it never happened. Okay. So they supported a coup, and 8 months later, what coup? Are you nuts?
Never happened.
Are you nuts? No. The real coup was General Milley trying to protect the planet Earth from complete destruction because we had a madman who had lost his mind. And again, all the times that the 25th Amendment was talked about over the last 3 or 4 years that should have been invoked, that then the conversation would end. Why? Because we would say, well, there's no way. The fucking cabinet, there's no way. It was never going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was whatever remedy there would have been at that point. It never occurred. So here we're 8 months past Trump's presidency, and we're finding out things bit by bit, piece by piece, and everything that you thought wasn't 1/5 as bad as it turned out to be. Pick your topic, pick your subject area. Trump was worse than we thought. And I think it's already happened. If it hasn't happened, it'll happen in the next 5 minutes. Of course, as always, there needs to be an investigation over what we need to have hearings, right? So the Republicans are constantly, most of them, although I haven't looked to see whether there's fairly unanimous agreement that Milley was out of line, and there needs to be hearings on this over what's in Bob Woodward and Bob Costas's book. Robert Costas's book. Okay.
Does Bob Costas have a pretty good book about the Gas House Gang? I got to check that out.
Although I could be wrong on this. Isn't Bob short for Robert? But okay.
Yeah, it is. I think.
Yeah.
Most of the time,
it is different, but it is. We know they're different people, but this is exactly the kind of thing that would go under the heading of here's another distraction. Here's another way to take your eye off the ball. So it isn't the fact that Trump, by any rational measure from outside of Trump, was thought to have desires to do whatever it took to stay in office, including not just tacit support, but actual support of an assault on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. That's not the problem. The problem is now that we've found out that there were at least a few adults in the room, which, you're right. Mark Meadows, by the way, was not one of those people. He was not one of those stopgap. That's bullshit.
He switched
Meadows
sides.
is right now trying to get him reelected. That's bullshit. If Meadows thinks he's going to,
he switched.
The irony.
He switched sides and he gave the appearance of being an adult, but no, he's always a dick.
No, here's the triple irony, maybe the quadruple irony of all this. Who turned out, at least so far, I haven't read the book yet, of course, to be the calm voice in the room, the rational person, the one person who laid down the law and said, don't even think about it. It was Dan Quayle.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Quayle.
That was amazing. In the book, Mike Pence is really struggling with the decision. He's getting a lot of support from, he's getting a lot of pressure from Donald Trump to try to change the votes and to try to break the law. And Pence doesn't know who to call. And of course, he's from Indiana. Dan Quayle is from Indiana. He gets the former vice president, Dan Quayle, on the phone. He says, what can I do here? What can I do? I'm getting Donald Trump's going to have me bayoneted on the front lawn. What the fuck can I do? And Quayle goes, forget it. You do nothing. You go in, you talk to the parliamentarian, you rubber stamp, you go home. And Pence goes, you don't understand. You don't understand. Donald Trump's he's going to kill me. He's going to shoot me into outer space. And Quayle goes, you can't do anything. You have no control over this. There is no veering out of the lane. Go in, do what the parliamentarian tells you, and you go the fuck home. And Dan Quayle, in his own way, saved democracy. Somehow, some way, it happened. That is an amazing story.
Remember, because and Dan Quayle, it's true, of all people, he was the last guy to have to do what Pence was assigned to do, which is go before the United States Congress and certify on the 6th of January that he had just lost re-election along with the president that he was serving, George H.W. Bush, at the time. So Quayle did it back then. So
who was gracious? Think about how gracious George H.W. Bush was in defeat. Think about how he stepped out of the way and everybody. And
in other words, a loser. He's a loser. He's a loser.
I was cheated. I was cheated. Got cheated out of the election. A lot of illegal immigrants. They were bundling the votes. Vote changed in the middle of the night. None of that should happen. And I want you also to think about a couple of other things. When Milley made the call to China, you've seen transcripts generally of what he said to the Chinese. Remember, he said, hey, democracy is a little sloppy sometimes. It's just okay. This is what we. No, it's only sloppy when you have dickhead Donald Trump trying to kill people in the Capitol.
Well,
that's when it's sloppy. Okay. It's not democracy's
no,
fault.
Well, it's always sloppy, but it's sloppy to the 50th power for the last 5 years. Okay,
I love Billy. Like, things get a little messy over here with democracy. No, only when dickhead's in charge. That's when things get fucking sloppy and things get kind of out of sorts. That's what the problem is.
Okay, sloppy is a plate in front of you,
exactly,
with Sloppy Joe on it, and it kind of gets on your chin. They're hard to eat, right?
Yes.
And in elementary school and high school, they'd have those buns that were so soft. Right?
Yeah,
it just all right,
couldn't hold anything.
That's sloppy, but Trump sloppy is food fight. Food fight. 300 kids throwing food at each other. That's Trump sloppy. Most of the time, it's just one plate of Sloppy Joe stuff.
Yeah, it's like a 15-month-old trying to feed himself carrots. Those little carrot puree things. It's everywhere. Yeah. It's in his hair. That's Donald Trump, with democracy. And then Milley's just trying to explain to the Chinese guy, please don't kill us. Everything's going to be fine. Don't overreact. Just because the biggest dick in the world happens to hold the keys to the kingdom at this moment, he's getting ready to go bye-bye. Everything will be fine.
Hey, but before we get out of here, I got to bring this up. This isn't too stupid to talk about, although it really is. I am so hopeful that they nail that hunk of shit Madison Cawthorn to the floor.
Oh, boy.
For bringing a knife to that school board meeting last month in Asheville.
Yeah.
I think they got him 2 ways from yesterday. And I think it's just perfect. I think it's perfect. This isn't even a case of, he has some kind of congressional immunity on the floor of the House. This isn't that at all. No, when you're back in your home district, you're just another citizen. You got nothing to stand on, and there are just too many witnesses that that he did this. And there are pictures of him, and there's a picture that we can see. It has a knife in the back of his wheelchair. I guess he could just reach around, pull it out, and go for it. Kill Bill.
Yeah. You can't see on the picture we're showing, but that's the Asheville Citizen Times, and there is a knife there. And of course, Madison Cawthorn, being the guy that took over from Mark Meadows as the representative from Western North Carolina.
It's perfect, isn't it?
It is.
It's perfect symmetry. Yeah.
Well, I knew Mark Meadows was going to be a huge problem because he was the Koch brothers' wet dream. I mean, they saw that guy and found they were just threw money at him. I'm not really even sure. I guess he felt like since they changed the gerrymandering that he wasn't going to be able to win in Western North Carolina, and he decided to take that dream job of being chief of staff for Donald Trump. But I always felt like no matter what happened for Mark Meadows, as many times he wanted to run, the Koch brothers or the Koch brother would throw as much money as he would never be underfunded in any election, any campaign. That's what I'm trying to say. They love that guy.
Right.
He was absolutely their boy.
Okay. You got anything else too stupid to talk about?
I think I've emptied my mind. I've completely emptied my mind.
I'm through. God damn, 11:40, 40 minutes after the polls closed, and then the notifications come on your phone that it was over. Oh, by the way,
yes.
And the big argument today on that is, well, does that mean anything for the rest of the country, or is this just a California story? And of course, California is different, blah, blah, blah. So it's blue state, blah, blah, it doesn't count. I think you could get a little bit more granular than just talking about California in total, because as you know, if you look at the map of the way California votes, it's unbelievable that there's this splotch of red that runs through the north, where, again, just like in a place like North Carolina, the red places are the counties where there are no people, just a lot of trees, small towns, forestry, and it runs down through the Central Valley, the agricultural areas, Bakersfield, Fresno, through the middle of the state. But the entire coast, the entire west coast of California is that's blue from San Francisco all the way down, even to San Diego. But here's the point. Point is that even counties like San Diego and Orange County, which voted for Biden in the election, that used to be considered rock solid Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon, Republican stronghold counties, that was that. Ronald Reagan is dead. Richard Nixon is dead. Go ahead, finish.
I wish I was dead.
I wish I was dead. No, it's that's over. That's over. So those counties gave Joe Biden pretty good wins.
Well,
and they also voted for Gavin Newsom in the election in 2018, and they voted by equal or greater margins this time to keep Gavin Newsom where he is. So at some level, you can take that as this is a repudiation of Trumpism. They tried to nationalize the election. They tried to do that, and you know what? Guess what? There aren't enough people there to do that. But
that's why I think the Orange County results are so telling. Because if anybody was going to do crazy Donald Trump, this guy being the Black Trump, no. And Orange County did not. Orange County saw through the madness and said, "Hey, we're going to turn out and we're going to go against this."
Right, and again, Orange County, it's a big populated county. I think there's like 3 or 4 million people there.
It is,
and it's not what it was back in Nixon time and Reagan time.
That's correct.
It is an extremely ethnically diverse county now.
It was.
It just is.
I think in 2018, I believe they're in that 2018 election. They didn't have a single Republican going to Congress. I think it was all Democrats that came out of those districts there. Now that may have changed.
Right. But in 2020, though, the Democrats lost a couple of seats back. They lost a couple seats back.
But it would have never been.
But what happened yesterday is a good indicator that the future is fairly bright for. And by the way, if the Democrats are going to hold the House of Representatives, they have any shot, they've got to hold, all 7 of those seats that are in Orange County.
Yep.
And they always hold whatever number of seats there are in Los Angeles. Well, LA must have 15. Who knows how many they have there? They got 10 million people. So it doesn't mean anything, but it means something.
It does,
right? We never know. All right.
We'll see you tomorrow to finish up our week, everybody.